Welcome to the PJ Hoop Podcast. I'm your host, PJ. And if this is your very first time checking out my podcast, I just want to let you guys know two things just really quickly. So first and foremost, this is not just an NBA podcast. I also cover college and a little bit of international and high school. And if you're interested in checking out that kind of content, I'll leave a link right up in the corner, okay, for those episodes, okay? Secondly, I want to give you guys the 4 segments that I go over each episode. And so the 4 segments that I go over each episode, starting with number 1, it's a segment I like to call PJ's Echelon. Now, within this segment, essentially, is just my power rankings, okay? And so the four criteria I use for my power rankings is I go off of the record, strength of schedule, statistically, but then also, most importantly, the eye test, okay? So that segment, I'll kick that segment off very shortly, okay? The other 3 segments that I go over is another segment. Another one is called What's New. Now, in the segment of What's New, essentially, it's just... Honestly, it's literally just if there's anything new going on in the NBA or like any news about anything that's going on in the NBA or anything that I noticed or anything that I want to rant on. It's kind of like a freestyle segment in a way, but really good information is what's coming and what's new, okay? Another segment that I go over is Rookie Talk. Now, Rookie Talk, essentially, it's what it sounds like. I'm just talking about today's rookies and some rookies that may be performing very well, some that may not be doing very well. Today's episode will be the first episode where I'm actually talking about rookies that have somewhat, like, I ain't gonna say underperform. They more so just haven't had the opportunities to perform, okay? So, but normally I talk about just the positive things about rookies. But yeah, this episode I'm gonna talk about not so positive, okay? A last segment that I also go over is Games of the Week. Now, in Games of the Week, as we progress through the season, during Games of the Week, essentially, I'll be talking about games that have some type of like stand-in significance or just had some type of implications to them, okay? As of right now, we're still very early in the season, so a lot of these games are also going to be just games that I'm just enjoy watching, okay? So those are the 4 segments. Now, before I get started on the segments, I just want to let you guys know that today is Wednesday, November 27th. And it's about 4 p.m. So obviously this is being recorded as the games are getting ready to get started at 4. And there's a ton of games today. And I was contemplating if I wanted to record like now or tomorrow morning. But I go back to work tomorrow, so I'm just not going to have the time to do it. So I was like, well, let me just do it now and just hope for the best. I actually just got back from Las Vegas this morning. I went to the Duke versus Kansas game last night. And I'm going to do another college episode pretty soon here. I'll do another college episode in a couple weeks. So I'll be talking more extensively about some of the players in that game. But long story short, it was a great game. I actually got to meet a couple people, very nice people. So very fun experience for me. Anyways, let's dive straight into today. I don't want to waste any more of you guys' time. And I want to kick you guys off with the very first segment, and that's PJ's Echelon. Like I said, the criteria for this is based on my eye test, statistically, the record, and then also strength of schedule. But most importantly, this is a progressive list, okay? I'm not a perfect man, but I am a progressive man. So just keep that in mind as we go through the power rankings, okay, week after week. Now, let's start it off, okay, with number 1 on my list, and that team is 15-3, and that is the Boston Celtics. Boston, as of right now, they're 3rd in offensive efficiency, they're 8th in defensive efficiency, and they're 3rd in net rating. So Porzingis is back. I actually talked about it a little bit last week that I felt that he was going to be returning very soon because I seen last week that the scrimmaging, he was starting to scrimmage. But also, Jason Tatum right now, in my opinion, is playing at an MVP level. Jaylen Brown has had somewhat of a slow start to the season. I think he was dealing with an injury earlier this year, if I remember correctly, but he picked it up recently. I think it was usually the last game or the game before. I think it was last game. They played Minnesota. I think he hit like 5 straight threes to open the game. But even before that game, like his efficiency has been picking up a little bit better. Because right now on the year, I don't have it in front of me, but I think Jaylen Brown's shooting like only 43% from the field. And he's a much better, more efficient than that from the field. So I expect him to kind of pick it up. But I think this is the year. Can we just start this now? If it hasn't already been started, can we start the Derek White making the All-Star team this year? Can we just start that petition? Because I think Derek White deserves to make the All-Star team this year, okay? Because he's balling for them, okay? But anyways, they're my number 1 team. I'm just going to leave it at that. They're the best team in my eyes right now. Obviously, when they're doing their thing, nobody's messing with them as of right now, okay? So Boston, number 1. Number 2, on my list. This team is 17-1, and that's the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland right now is first in offensive efficiency. They're 10th in defensive efficiency, and they're first in net rating. They had a pretty light week this last week. They took care of 2 lottery teams. I really like what they've done up to this point in the year. Yeah, Boston did expose them last week, but I talked about that already last week, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. But a lot of teams have flaws right now in the NBA, so them losing to Boston, I'm not going to kill them for that. They are the number 2 team for me again this week, just like last week. They're still first in the NBA in field goal percentage at 52%, and they're also first in the NBA in three-point percentage at 41.5%. So Cleveland being number 2 right now, I think it's a safe lock, okay? Number 3, this team is 13-3, and that's the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma right now, they're 10th in offensive efficiency, they're first in defensive efficiency, and they're second in net rating. For me, they took care of business this week, wins over the Blazers, and a blowout win also over the Sacramento Kings. They play Golden State tonight, so we'll see how that goes. Otherwise, to me, this is still a really good team. They recently just got Isaiah Hartenstein back, which he had a really good game against Portland. I think he had like 14 and 12 or something like that, and like 5 or 6 blocks. He did really well. But yeah, so I have them at number 3, okay? Number 4 on my list, at 13-6. It may be a surprise, is the Houston Rockets. Houston right now, they're 16th in offensive efficiency. They're second in defensive efficiency, and they're 4th in net rating. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. And I really just enjoyed watching this team as the seasons progress. They're 4th in the league right now in steals. They're 1st in rebounds. And thank you to Tari Eason and Amin Thompson. They're locking up. Okay, this team is playing lights out defense, but also I got to give some love and praise to Alperen Şengün, because literally during my Houston Rockets season preview episode, you can go ahead and check that out. That's inside the Southwest Division episode. I literally talked about how I was going to be paying attention to Alperen Şengün's rim protection and seeing if he would make a leap in that. And he has, okay? So I got to give a little bit of love to them, okay? They did lose one game. They had a back-to-back, they played Portland 2 nights in a row, and so they split those games, but there's no shame in that. I mean, Portland also beat up on Minnesota twice. I think they beat up on another team twice. I want to say it was like Atlanta or somebody. They beat up on another team twice, so I didn't kill them for that, you know. And it is hard to beat any team in the NBA, you know, back-to-back nights, okay? I don't care how good or how bad the team is. Teams get to scheme for you that second time around, okay? But anyways, so that's why I got Houston at number 4. Number 5 on my list at 12-5. It's the Golden State Warriors. Golden State right now, they're 7th in offensive efficiency. They're 4th in defensive efficiency. And they're 5th in net rating. They're on a 2-game losing streak right now, so I had to ding them a little bit for that. They lost to the Nets, who has been a surprising team thus far this season. I know they just announced they're not going to have Cam Johnson for, I think, 3 to 4 weeks, so we'll see how far they drop off without him. But they also did lose to a top 10 defensive team in the San Antonio Spurs. San Antonio right now, they're 9th in the NBA in defensive rating, so obviously, yes, I had to ding them a little bit, but I didn't cream them. That's why they only moved down 1 spot from last. Well, they moved down 2 spots because they did lose 2 in a row. But still, I didn't kill them for that, because to me, the loss in San Antonio is not horrible, because San Antonio, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I believe San Antonio's on a 5-game win streak. So losing them is not, I'm not going to kill them for that. And like I said, the Nets have been a frisky team this year. So I still respect a lot what this team has done up to this point in the year. But I do believe their schedule has been pretty light, and they have had a couple breaks with some superstars not playing when they play teams. But I'm not going to take that away from them. Tonight they play OKC, so we'll see how that game goes and see if they can get back into the winning column, okay? So that's why they're at number 5. Number 6 on my list, this team is 12-7, and that is the Orlando Magic. Orlando right now, they're 25th in the NBA in offensive efficiency. They're 3rd in defensive efficiency. And they're 9th in net rating. So they lost to the Clippers, which to me isn't a bad loss. But then they bounced back and they beat the Lakers, and they took care of business playing against the Hornets and the Pistons. Two teams they should be, Garner. I did say the Pistons or Hornets were going to make the play-in, but still, these are still teams you have to beat if you're the Magic and if you want to prove that you're in that top echelon of the Eastern Conference. So they did take care of business there. I I kept this team at number 6, just like last week. And I do, let's be real. They're 9-1 in their last 10 games. And Paulo should be returning in the next, I think in the next probably like 3 weeks, he'll probably be back. And I still really like this team. So I held them firm at 6 because I still think they handle business, okay? And losing to the Clippers is nothing to be like ashamed of. So number 7 on my list. This team is 11-7, and that's the Memphis Grizzlies. Memphis right now, they're 5th in the NBA in offensive efficiency. They're 6th in defensive efficiency, and they're 6th in net rating. They're 7-3 in their last 10. And I'll continue to say it week after week. This is the deepest team in basketball, in my opinion. And I have been saying this since the very first regular season episode, okay? I've been feeling like this. I still like this team. This team right now doesn't disappoint, okay? No matter who's in their lineup, they take care of business. Memphis right now, they're 3rd in the NBA in rebounds. They're 2nd in assists, and they're 1st in blocks. And shout out to their front office for drafting well and signing guys, finding diamonds in the rough. I shout out to Memphis's front office, and also shout out to Jaren Jackson as well. He's having a career year right now, so big love for him. I've been waiting and hoping that he would step up in his efficiency, because his efficiency, to me, hasn't been up to par for somebody with his size and his ability. Like, I just felt that he should have been a lot better efficiency-wise, but also rebounding. Like, he should be averaging over 10 boards a game, but that's another discussion for another day. Anyways, I got Memphis right now, number 7 on my big board, okay? Number 8 is the New York Knicks. New York right now, they're 10-7 on the season. They're 2nd in offensive efficiency. They're 23rd in defensive efficiency, and they're 7th in net rating. Right now, they're 7-3 in their last 10. They have a bad loss to Utah, so I had to ding them for that. But they're 2nd in the NBA in three-point percentage at 40%. They're 2nd in the NBA in field goal percentage at 50%. They play Dallas tonight on ESPN, so we'll see how they perform in that matchup. I was kind of weary about putting them in the top 10 or keeping them in the top 10, but, they still are one of the best offenses in the NBA, okay, regardless of where they are right now defensively. And like I said, I'll be paying attention to their game tonight against Dallas to see how that goes, okay? Number 9 on my list. This team is 10-7, and that's the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix right now, they're 13th in offensive efficiency. They're 19th in defensive efficiency, and they're 17th in net rating. Obviously, they did not look good without Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. I believe they were on I think it was a 3 or 4 game losing streak without. I believe it was 4-game losing streak without them. But this team they've woke up. Okay, they woke up. KD and Bradley Beal just returned last night against the Lakers. They took care of business against the Lakers. And Garner, yes, it is the Lakers, and the Lakers are not a premium good defensive team necessarily. But you could just see Devin Booker felt a lot more comfortable having Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal back in the lineup, so teams can't just load up on him. And before Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal went out, I had this team ranked in my top 10. But then, they didn't hold firm, so I had to ding them. But I put them back at 9. Also, in essence, like, this is where the eye test comes into play. When I watched them play, like I watched them play last night, they feel like a top 10 team to me, and that's why I just put them slightly back in the top 10 at 9. I expect them to climb higher, but for right now, at 9 is where I'm going to have them. But obviously, Phoenix, to me, is a top 10 team, and they were just missing Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal, okay? Number 10 on my list, and this team is 10-8, and that is the Dallas Mavericks. Dallas on the season right now, they're 6th in offensive efficiency. They're 7th in defensive efficiency, and they're 8th in net rating. So I put them here because I just liked how they looked without Luka. They barely lost to Miami in overtime, which I'll be covering that game in a second when I get to one of my other segments. Their wins since he's been out has been solid in my opinion. The other teams I considered just didn't have the same quality of wins like Dallas for me. And like I said, I really liked just how they competed without Luka. So that's why I gave them the 10th spot. That's not to say like these other teams didn't garner the 10th spot, or like maybe I should have put them there. Like I said, leave your top 10 in your opinion. Leave it in the description, in the comment section down below, and let me know who's in your top 10. But the teams that are all right on the outside that I was also considering for the 10th spot was the Milwaukee Bucks, the San Antonio Spurs, and the Los Angeles Clippers. So the only reason why I didn't put these other teams there, because with Milwaukee, yes, Milwaukee's on, I believe, a 5-game win streak right now. But if you look at the teams they've beaten, it's like they should be beating these teams, you know? So, like, it was just like I couldn't give them too much credit, but I gave them enough credit to where, like, okay, I can put them on the bubble. I do expect by this time next week, I do expect them to be back in the top 10. I do expect that, but we got to wait and see because they can easily turn right back down, going back downwards, you know? So I put them right on the fringe. And then also the Spurs. I don't have it in front of me right now, but I believe the Spurs are on a 3 or 4 game win streak as well. But like I just said, I hinted at a little bit earlier, the Spurs are playing top 10 defense right now in basketball. And Wemby in the last, I think, 3-4 games have been playing out of his mind. I think he's averaging like 33, 12, and like 2 or 3 blocks and like 3 or 4 assists. Like he's playing out of his mind and he's shooting great from the field and from the 3 right now. So I put them right on the fringe. We'll see if they can cut it next week or if this was just like a little spurt for them. But then also I said the Clippers because to me, the Clippers have also been they've been pretty steady, you know, like they've been very tough and competitive all season long. And at a point I did have them in the top 10, but I took them out of my top 10 after they started losing some games. Now, with that being said, that's the end of the power ranking segment. Now, you, again, let me know who's in your top 10 down in the comments section below. Let's have open dialogue about it and just let me know, okay? And again, remember, this list is a progressive list, and this list is being finalized at about 4 p.m. on Wednesday. So, obviously, yes, I know there's a slew of games going on right now as I'm recording. But, yeah, so that's my top 10 as of right now. My team's on the bubble, okay? This next segment that I'm going to go into, it's called What's New, but just give me a second. I'm just going to take a sip of water really quick. Now, with this segment, What's New? In this segment, it's me giving you some NBA news that I really thought was interesting or some injury updates or just me freestyling or just me just ranting, okay? Like, this is kind of a freestyle segment in a way, but also I'm going to give you valuable information, and you do with the information as you please, okay? So remind you that, okay? Here we go. So in the segment of What's New, the NBA is switching to a 4-team format for their All-Star game. So they're going to do 3 All-Star teams, 8 players on each team. The team that wins the Rising Star game will also be included into this 4-team format. So the 2 semifinal games will go up to 40 points. The winner's advancing in the final game. So the 2 semifinal games will be 40 points, and then in the finals, each game will be 25. The final games, the championship game will be, I guess not championship game, but the final game will be 25, first team to 25 points. Sorry about that. Okay, so I thought that was kind of interesting that they're changing the format for the All-Star game. I personally believe if we're going to do something like this, why not just invite, the top, let's say the top 3 teams from Europe or something, or like, let Europe build an all-star team or something. Let them come over here and play us. If like we're going to do something like that, like we might as well just do something like that. Just take make 3 NBA all-star teams and just take 3 of the top teams overseas and NBA pays for them to come over here and play. I think that could be really good and give also exposure to the NBA, to those leagues and to those countries, but also vice versa. It gives those teams exposure to us. I think that could be a good idea since the traditional thing, I guess, just failed, which is unfortunate. My favorite All-Star game was the one that took place at Cowboy Stadium. I thought for me that was my favorite and the best All-Star game. Like the East versus West, that was the best game that I've ever watched. It was intense. It was an intense game. Anyways, another thing that I thought was interesting, Giannis now has the most games in NBA history with 40 points on 70% field goal shooting, it just speaks to his dominance. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Giannis because I thought that was an interesting stat. Another player, Amen Thompson, is leading the entire NBA in double-doubles off the bench this season. If you haven't got a chance to check out the Houston Rockets and Amen Thompson and Tari Eason coming off the bench, take time, go check them out, okay? These kids are hounds, okay? Another thing that I thought was interesting is Mike Malone just became the winningest head coach in Denver Nuggets history following their win against the Los Angeles Lakers a couple days back. So shout out to Mike Malone there. Another thing, Ja Morant is now tied for the most 20 points and 10 assists games in under 25 minutes in NBA history. I thought that was just super interesting because to me that kind of speaks to how electric and explosive Ja Morant is as a player, but it also speaks to me. I know people say like the game is faster, but truly during the 70s, 80s, and even part of the 90s, the pace was about what it is today. It was just, mid 90s and up, and then all the way up to like 2010-ish, maybe a little bit before is when the pace slowed down. But to me, also, it kind of just screams to, like, the offensive rating has also just gotten much better. So that's why also we're seeing these explosive things, like, again, they're just taking better shots. I know the three, a lot of people down look on the three, but, people talk, numbers scream at the end of the day. And if you look at history, offensive ratings have substantially gotten better, but the pace has not changed, like, super duper dramatically. But anyways, I could talk about that in another episode. Next thing, LaMelo Ball becomes the second fastest player in NBA history to reach 600 career three-pointers made. Karl Anthony Towns is the fastest player in Knicks history to reach 400 points and 200 rebounds. So that's it for What's New segment. Now, usually sometimes I like to rant about stuff, but I'm going to save that because I do have a lot more stuff I want to say. And there's so much stuff I can sit up here and talk to you guys about, but I just don't want these episodes to be too long. If you do want to have further conversations with me, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok. Feel free to reach out to me, or even in the comment section down below in any of my videos or shorts. Please, I'm like I said, I'm all for talking more and more deep into things, but I'm just not trying to have these episodes be 2, 3, 4 hours, because I can do it. Trust me, okay? So that's what's new. Now, if there was any news that you felt I should have covered, or even news that you thought was important that you want to share with people, leave it down in the comment section below, okay? Now, the next segment is Games of the Week. So, within Games of the Week, it's going to be either games of significance or games that I really enjoyed watching. Right now, at this point in the season, it's mainly going to be just games I enjoyed watching. So just keep that in mind, okay? Later on in the season, it'll be like games with some type of standing significance or home court significance or play-in significance, okay? So just keep that in mind as we go through this segment. Okay, so Games of the Week. One of the games I chose, this took place on November 21st, and that was the Detroit Pistons versus the Charlotte Hornets. Hornets won in overtime, 123-121. So I know I talked about this matchup a couple weeks back, but it was garnered, okay? And this one, in my opinion, also was garnered once more because this time around, the Hornets were leading by about 20 points about halfway through the third quarter, but Detroit just kept chipping away at the lead. And with like a minute left in the fourth quarter, they tied the game up. Then Cade hit 2 free throws to take the lead. LaMelo comes back down and hits a floater to tie the game up again. I believe Cade fouled out. What about like 2 plays later, or like within that sequence, he fouled out. And then later on, like a little bit after that, LaMelo missed the game-winning floater in regulation. Then they went to overtime where LaMelo fouled out early in overtime. And then Brandon Miller just took over, and he had like, I think Brandon Miller scored like 9 straight points, I think, in overtime, if I remember correctly. Because this was last week, okay? So I've watched a lot of basketball since then. But if I remember correctly, Brandon Miller scored like 9 straight in overtime. And in that game, LaMelo and Brandon Miller combined for 73 points, and they shot insane. They shot really good efficiency. I just don't have the numbers in front of me right now. This matchup for me just doesn't disappoint. The 2 times they played this year just hasn't disappointed. You can tell these are 2 teams that are like, trying to get into that play-in, get to the play-in. You could just tell by the way they've been playing this year. And I even said in my season previews for both of these teams, I considered them potentially for play-in spots. I ended up saying I thought the Hornets were going to make it in the play-in over Detroit. But I even said in my Detroit season preview episode that I felt Detroit was going to be one of my candidates. I just couldn't decide between the 2. And I went with the Hornets just because I thought, and I ain't gonna say I thought, I had faith that Mark Williams was going to be healthy, but he clearly hasn't played yet this year. Miles Bridges has been in and out of the lineup. Brandon Miller has missed a few games. LaMelo has been carrying them, okay? So shout out to LaMelo. So that's why I chose that game. Another game for me that really stood out was this game took place on November 24th, and that was the Dallas Mavericks versus the Miami Heat. Miami won in overtime, 123-118. So I chose this game because it had a lot of just tough shot making, okay? Like, it was a lot for me, at least in my opinion. It was a lot of great shot making, a lot of tough shots being made. No Luka for Dallas. And this Dallas team, like I said earlier, has been playing very well without Luka, honestly, in my opinion. But obviously, know they're better with him in the lineup, so don't get it twisted. Anyways, down the stretch, there was some great shot making, specifically by Kyrie, by Jimmy Butler, and even Tyler Hero had a shot that was a tough shot. So down the stretch, Kyrie Irving and Jimmy Butler, they were just going back and forth like the last 3 minutes of regulation. Jimmy Butler had the game tying dunk to send the game into overtime, like with like little to no time left. And then in overtime, it was just all Jimmy Butler. For me, he just had his hands all over the game. In overtime, it was just controlling the game. Hero, I want to take a moment and just give a shout out to Tyler Hero, because Tyler Hero right now is having a career year. If people are not paying attention to that, if you guys weren't paying attention to that, I just want to let you know he is having a career year from the field, and just all his numbers are up across the board. So shout out to Tyler Hero. But also the rookie, what's his name? Larson. I think his name is like Larson or something like that. I don't have it in front of me, but I think his name's like Larson. He's been slowly getting minutes in the rotation, and he's been showing up. You know, recently he's been hitting big shots, hitting good threes. He's kind of like a Duncan Robinson, honestly, for them in a way. But yeah, so I want to give a shout out to him. Also want to give a shout out to Najee Marshall. Najee Marshall, I believe he's like on a 3-game streak of like averaging like over 20 points a game on really good efficiency. So I want to shout out to Najee Marshall as well, because he's been hooping for them. And so, yeah, those are the 2 games that I decided to go with. So for me, like, if there's any games that you feel like other ones I should have covered, I think you also should just, like I said, down in the comment section below, let me know what games you really liked over this past week. Again, I just explained to you guys why I chose those 2 games. And like, I try to watch just about every game. Like, I watch a lot of basketball. Even when I'm at work, I watch it. When I'm in my car, I watch it. When I'm at home, most of the time I'm watching it. So I just chose these 2 games, and because of those reasons I just given you. But again, let me know what games you guys really enjoyed this last week. And obviously, as the season goes on, I will give you guys like games with more significance. But I enjoyed those 2 games. So you let me know down in the comment section below what 2 games you guys really enjoyed, and we can have an open conversation about that. Okay. So now my last segment is going to be rookie talk. Okay. Now, with Rookie Talk this week, I'm going to do something a little different. So since the beginning of the year, I've been giving praise to rookies who have performed very well, or that's like on the upswing. This week, I'm going to talk about rookies that I ain't going to say have underperformed per se, because I don't know how practice is going for these players. But these are players that haven't really had the opportunities I was expecting of them up to this point. But that's not to say they won't. You know, we're only like, 18 games, 19 games into the season, about 20 games into the season. So this is not to say these players won't, because I still believe they will. But I just want to spottingly talk about these 2 players with you guys, because these are 2 players that I was very high on during my draft episodes. And you can go ahead and check those out as well. But I was very high on these 2 players during that draft episode. Okay. So one is Montes Buzelis. Right now, he's only averaging 11 minutes a game. I'm not going to go over his averages, because I just feel like that's doing him a disservice. Same with the next player I'm going to talk about. Like, I'm not going to talk about literally their statistics, because I feel like that just does not tell the story of what these players really are. You know, I'm just going to tell you guys their minutes. But anyways, Montes Buzelis is only averaging about 11 minutes a game right now. So for me right now, it's unfortunate, because for me, he was on my Rookie of the Year ballot. And that's not to say he can't still get there, you know, but right now it's not looking too good. I'm still a very big believer in him. Don't get me wrong. I just think right now Chicago needs to start just cutting meat off the cow. I've been saying, even before I even started making this podcast, I was telling one of my old coworkers who was a Chicago Bulls fan, I was like, you guys need to start cutting these players. And that was over 2 years ago. But anyways, they need to get off of Levine. I think they're going to still get off Levine. I still believe they're going to get off of Vucevic, which should open up some more playing time for Montes Buzelis. I noticed the last few games, they have been giving him a little bit more minutes. But no doubt in my mind, like, they need to get rid of those 2 players so Buzelis can get more playing time, hopefully with the starters. because I still am very high on him, because I do believe Montes Buzelis, for me, over the last year, because I've been following him since last summer, has shown me, like, he's a scorer, and he belongs in this league. He just obviously needs to put on some weight, but the dude's fearless, okay? Montes Buzelis is a fearless player, and I have no doubts that once he gets his opportunities, he's going to make a name for himself in this league, okay? Another player is Khalil Ware, and so Khalil Ware right now is only getting 6 minutes a game, unfortunately. I was forecasting him to start for the Miami Heat at center this year, which probably was me being a little too optimistic, but to me it was garnered. Like, in my opinion, I believe Bam Adebayo is a power forward. They just play him at center. I don't care about it being today's NBA and everybody's small ball lineup. Like, you can use a small ball lineup, don't get me wrong, but you need like a traditional center, to me, to some extent in the NBA, in my opinion. If you're going to compete with some of these other teams in the NBA, like the top echelon, you need bigs. And Bam is not a center. He's a power forward, and I believe he would flourish as a power forward. We even seen him over the summer, during the Olympics. He played as a power forward then. I would really like to see him play as the power forward next to Khalil Ware, and I kept talking about it all summer long, and I thought it was going to happen. And it's not to say it still can't happen, but up to this point in the season, it hasn't. So that's kind of disappointing to me, because I do believe Khalil Ware really could help this team out offensively and defensively, and allowing Bam just to be a roamer, just be able to roam on defense and even be able to stretch out. Because Khalil Ware can shoot threes too, if you guys didn't know that. Khalil Ware can step out to the three-point line as well. I hate his hook shot. His hook shot is disgusting. Okay, that's the one thing about him. I'm just like, this is nasty, to be honest with you guys. But anyways, I still think he has promise, and so I'm just hoping that they do give him that opportunity, because I believe he really can help this team right now. So I just wanted to talk about him, because if you checked out any of my old episodes, Miami Heat preview, or even my post-draft or pre-draft episodes, you'll see I talked about Khalil Ware quite a bit, and that I'm high on him, because he's good to me. I think he's an NBA player. Some other piece of information, and those are the two players that I'm going to talk about today. Next week, we'll go back to, showing love to some players. Obviously, this last week, Stephon Castle has been performing very well. Lil Rob Dillingham has slowly, finally been getting minutes, so he might be somebody. Him and Castle might be people I cover next week. But I just wanted to take this episode and kind of shine the spotlight on Buzelis and Khalil Ware, because I think these are NBA players, in my opinion. Something else I kind of want to point out to you guys. So, against the Houston Rockets, Donovan Clingan played 26 minutes. He had 0 points, but he had 19 rebounds and 3 blocks. So he was the first rookie in NBA history to have 0 points, 15 plus rebounds in a game. He also broke Bill Walton's record for most blocks by a rookie in consecutive games at 15. Clingan is literally on pace for what I said he was going to do as a Portland Trailblazer. And if you're interested in knowing what I had to say about that, you'll have to go back and check out my Northwest Division season preview. You can easily just fast forward to the Trailblazers. You'll see I have it all stamped, so you can see exactly which team is what. If you're interested in hearing more of a deep dive of Donovan Clingan, okay? I'm not going to do it right now in this episode. Just wanted to throw that at you guys, because I thought that was a very, salute to Donovan Clingan. He's broken a couple records already this year. I talked about even that last week when I talked more about him, and the week before that. But anyways, that's besides the point. Right now, I just want to thank you guys for checking out my podcast, and I hope to see you guys again next week. Do me a favor and just drop a like down so I can get this out to more people and get more into the YouTube algorithm, because I do believe the way I cover sports is a little bit different than most, and I'm also talking about things I believe that most people don't cover. And if you agree with me, do me a favor, share the content. Again, like the content as well if you're really enjoying what I'm doing here, okay? Other than that, I'll see you guys next week, and PJ's out.